Right now on Morning News Now, deadly storms slam the Midwest, tornadoes ripping through the heartland, toppling trees, destroying homes, and leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. And this morning, the danger isn't over yet. We have team coverage as millions of people from Texas to New York now face another round of severe weather. Also this morning, the defense rests. Donald Trump's lawyers wrap up their case in his criminal trial without calling him to the stand. What's next for the historic case? Plus, deadly turbulence. A flight plunged 6,000 feet in just minutes. The chaos leaving one person dead, more than 30 others hurt. What caused the midair scare? And why we could see even more extreme turbulence in the future. And the fight over Graceland. Elvis's granddaughter claiming a fake company is using forged documents to sell the iconic Memphis mansion. We're going inside the legal battle that has fans all shook up.
It's making a lot of headlines here over the last couple days. Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Wednesday. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Christine Romans. I'm in for Savannah today. All right, let's begin this morning with this direct hit in Iowa of these storms. Another round of severe weather threatening a large section of the country.
Today, 44 million people from central Texas to upstate New York are at risk of storms. Now, this deadly outbreak of tornadoes we've seen in recent weeks continued Tuesday with 20 reports of tornadoes in Iowa, as well as one in Wisconsin. This is a look at the scale of destruction left behind in the hard-hit town of Greenfield. It's 40 miles southwest of Des Moines. A suspected tornado tore through the town and surrounding places. Officials there say the storm caused multiple deaths and injuries. A weather-related death was also reported in nearby Adams County. The storms ripped apart neighborhoods all across the state, leaving behind a wide path of destruction. On top of that, heavy rains closed roads, stranded vehicles, and flooded fields. NBC News meteorologist Angie Lastman will tell us how long the severe weather is expected to last and where it's headed next. We'll get to her in a moment. But first, we begin with NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa. She is in Greenfield with a look at the damage there.
Hey, good morning from Greenfield, Iowa. The state's governor here declaring a state of emergency in 15 counties, this being one of them. And when you see the destruction, I mean, it's easy to understand why. Like, homes decimated, these two cars completely destroyed, one flipped over. And you can see behind these homes back there, there's that emergency sign. That appears to be a hospital. So it gives you an idea of the area we're in. And then we walk this way, look down the street. I mean, this is multiple blocks of complete and utter destruction. Basically, an entire neighborhood in this city is gone. And again, this was a widespread storm. 18 reported tornadoes across the state of Iowa. We had more in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And here in Iowa, authorities confirming multiple deaths and multiple injuries. Well, across the street here, you can see this car wash destroyed, this tree torn to shreds. I mean, again, the list just goes on. Back there, that roof is completely ripped off. We also saw stunning destruction southwest of Des Moines on a wind farm. I want to show you the video of a wind turbine that caught fire after a tornado ripped through. Again, it just completely crumpled and went up in flames. So absolutely incredible damage. But again, we know this is just the latest round of severe storms in what's been an incredibly volatile spring. The numbers confirming that. Last month, April, we saw close to 400 tornadoes nationwide. That is actually twice the national average, and it seems like the destruction is just continuing. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Maggie, thank you so much.
And the threat of severe weather continues today. Let's get a check on your Morning News Now weather.
Angie Lastman's here with more on the threat. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. We see that big batch of thunderstorms that was working through into the overnight periods across the Great Lakes. That's out of here. Now we turn our attention to what we're going to gear up for later this afternoon. We've got a couple of thunderstorms happening across a couple of spots, the Plains, the Ohio Valley. That's about it this morning. But as we get into the afternoon, things will really start to erupt along and ahead of this cold front that's been quickly working its way to the east. That's what we're going to see through the day today. We'll also see on top of that flash flood potential, the chance for some of those stronger storms. So let's start with those strong storms. It's quite expansive. It goes from parts of New York all the way south into Texas. You can see the bullseye area that we're really watching for the greatest chance to see some of the most destructive weather. That's going to be across parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas. Dallas right in the middle of that. This is likely going to be a situation where we deal with the hail, the winds, and potentially some tornadoes. So all three impacts are going to be on the board for us today. That tennis ball size hail is one of the biggest concerns that we have. And you can see, again, that's stretching from Little Rock, including Dallas, and out towards San Angelo. This is something that happens this afternoon and into this evening. So be prepared to have a way to get those alerts once again as we get through the rest of your day today. Looking ahead to tomorrow, some storms will start to pop up across parts of the Northeast. We'll see some severe risk across parts of the plains. Once again, you can see Little Rock, Dallas, Wichita, Kearney, all included in that here as we get into tomorrow. So a couple more days of this on the table for us. On top of the strong storms, I mentioned the flood concern that we had. The flash flooding for Little Rock, Dallas, Waco. The potential is there for us today as we gear up for some really heavy rain, potentially picking up 1 inch to 2 inches and maybe even isolated amounts up to 3 inches here as we get through the next couple of days. Looking ahead to your weekend, wet across parts of the Great Lakes, stretching through the Midwest and down through parts of the Mid-Atlantic, warm out west and in the southern plains where the heat is really going to be on for Texas. We look ahead to Saturday, still damp across the east. Nice conditions for the middle of the country. They deserve it. We'll see the sunny skies lasting for Sunday out west and more of those storms sticking with us, guys, unfortunately, for a soggy forecast for Memorial Day weekend across the south. If you're looking for sunshine, though, out west, plenty of that.
All right, Angie Lessman, thank you so much for that. You know, I called my parents last night, and the sirens were going in their house in Iowa, you know, so sirens all over the Midwest for tornadoes last night.
Yeah, well, something that folks are used to there,
Yeah.
and they kind of know what to do, but still scary scenes out there. All right. Closing arguments now set to take place next week, just after the Memorial Day holiday, in the hush money trial of former President Donald Trump.
Trump's legal team rested its case yesterday. The former president never took the stand, and his lawyers only called 2 witnesses. After testimony ended, the judge held a hearing with lawyers from both sides about what should be included in jury instructions. Mr. Trump addressed reporters after court adjourned for the day, criticizing Judge Juan Merchan and not mentioning why he didn't take the stand.
For the latest, we're joined now by NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen, NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Good morning to both of you. John, let's start with you. So the defense's key witness is Robert Costello. He returned to the stand after that contentious back and forth with the judge on Monday. In his testimony yesterday, Costello came under fire for how he characterized his relationship with former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen. Prosecutors tried to use his own words against him. Walk us through what happened in court.
Sure. I mean, the basic thing here is Costello was trying to represent himself as Michael Cohen's attorney, as the person representing Michael Cohen following the FBI raid of Cohen's offices and home back in 2018. And yet what ended up happening is that the prosecutors were able to basically paint Costello as somebody who was trying to become Michael Cohen's lawyer, but was unable to because Cohen did not trust him, thought that he was an agent of Donald Trump. And in fact, they were able to present evidence of an email from Costello to his law partner in which he said that what they were trying to do was get Michael Cohen back on Trump's side, or on the right page, as he put it, without giving the appearance that they were working on behalf of President Trump and Rudy Giuliani, leaving the suggestion, at least, that they were trying to turn Michael Cohen back.
You know, Danny, the former president did not testify at this trial, although he had suggested in the past that he would tell his story, but he did not. The defense called 2 witnesses. This seemed to be the defense seemed to be to poke holes in Michael Cohen's credibility. How'd they do?
Well, if it was just to poke holes in Michael Cohen's credibility, that was already done through cross-examination. And I get the strategy of calling Robert Costello because there was a moment where he said that Cohen said to him, "I've got nothing on Trump." Now, that could be something the jury would seize upon. But on the whole, the defense has no burden. And the challenge is when you start calling just a couple witnesses, you give the jury the impression that you have something to prove as well, which you don't. And when you get to closing arguments, sometimes that can be your best argument, even if you don't have an alternative theory, is just to say the prosecution didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And with Cohen, you already had baked in that he's a guy with credibility issues. So it was a risk to call Costello, who by many accounts was an unmitigated disaster.
John, let's switch gears here, talk about Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. That's the one based in Florida. Believe it or not, that trial was originally supposed to start this week. Obviously, it's been delayed indefinitely, but still there are 2 hearings planned for today. The judge is going to hear motions to dismiss this case. So what can we expect there?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get these arguments from Walt Nauta, the the valet to Donald Trump, often by his side even to this day, who wants to have the case dismissed on the idea that it's basically a vindictive prosecution. And then Donald Trump has some technical issues that he's raised that he wants to see the case dismissed as a result of that. Of course, anytime there is a motion to dismiss the case, the judge has an opportunity to do that. What we've seen in the last 24 hours or so is a lot more information about sort of why some of the evidence was collected, and basically some unsealed filings have shown that a judge in Washington, D.C. was befuddled at how Donald Trump could have had classified documents in his bedroom and not known it. So, it's hard to predict what the judge is going to do. I would just say for viewers, until this case moves forward in any real way, you can expect that it's not going to move forward before the election in any real way.
In a completely different legal drama for the former president, Danny, 11 former allies of Trump have pleaded not guilty in Arizona's fake electors case here, including Rudy Giuliani, the former lawyer of the former president. Bring us up to speed on this case and what's at stake.
Yeah, we're only at the indictment and arraignment phase, so it's at the very inception of this case. But this case has a lot of parallels to the Georgia election interference case. Some of the same defendants appear as well. And so it's going to be a lot of the same allegations. And I expect a primary defense is going to be one rooted in the First Amendment. We've seen a lot of B-roll of some of these defendants sitting around a table filming themselves as they're engaged in what appears to be some of the charges in the indictment. And I expect that they're going to use that as kind of a judo move to say, look, as much as this looks like video of us committing a crime, we so believed in what we were doing that we were perfectly happy to have video of us doing it. Their entire thrust of their argument is going to be they were engaging in the democratic process of elections. And whether or not it works remains to be seen.
All right, Danny and John, thank you both. Appreciate it.
All right, two key figures at the center of the Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump have both won their primary elections. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, who brought the racketeering case against the former president, won the Democratic primary in her re-election bid.
Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee, who's presiding over the Trump case, also came on top in his nonpartisan race. Fani Willis admitted to having a romantic relationship with the special prosecutor she brought on in the interference case. Judge McAfee ultimately ruled the relationship did not create a conflict of interest, allowing Willis to stay on the case if the special prosecutor stepped down. That decision is currently being reviewed by the Georgia State Court of Appeals. That makes it unlikely the case against Trump and more than a dozen others for allegedly attempting to overturn the 2020 results in that state will be heard before this election day.
President Biden spent Tuesday condemning Donald Trump for sharing a video on his social media network that seemingly uses Nazi language. That video has since been deleted from his account. And it all comes as both presumptive candidates continue to fight for the veteran vote ahead of the November elections. NBC News chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander has the details.
President Biden is touting his commitment to those who served, announcing more than 1 million health care claims approved as part of the bipartisan PACT Act he signed to expand benefits for veterans exposed to toxic chemicals.
Veterans, you are the solid steel spine of our nation.
The camouflage-colored appeals have become familiar for both President Biden and former President Trump, who's repeatedly slammed the Biden administration's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
He failed on every single thing, including Afghanistan.
Mr. Trump has won the military vote twice, but that support has eroded. Gulf War veteran Jeff Zamoyda says President Biden is a more unifying commander-in-chief.
Joe Biden is the person that I identify with more clearly as a candidate.
Because
of his staunch commitment to bipartisanship.
Vietnam War veteran Lou Chipola argues President Biden is leading the military in the wrong direction.
Downhill, they brought in the woke, it'll kill the military.
Meantime, the former president is facing fierce criticism for this video shared on Mr. Trump's social media accounts.
What happens after Donald Trump wins?
The 30-second clip uses a term associated with Germany's Nazi government, referring to the creation of a unified Reich, among fictionalized newspaper headlines covering a Trump victory in November. The Trump campaign telling NBC News the video was created by a random account and reposted by a staffer who they say did not see the word. The posts were removed.
A unified Reich? That's Hitler's language. That's not America's.
The latest example of President Biden trying to seize on any Trump misstep, looking to warn voters about the dangers, as he views it, of a second Trump term. Back to you.
All right, Peter Alexander, thank you. A Singapore Airlines flight was forced to make an emergency landing in Thailand yesterday after hitting extreme turbulence. Dozens of people on board suffered serious injuries. One passenger died. British media is now identifying the victim. 73-year-old Jeff Kitchen suffered a suspected heart attack when the plane hit a patch of sudden severe weather and began plummeting to the ground. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has the story.
On the tarmac in Bangkok, a mass casualty response to a terrifying high-altitude flight. Singapore Airlines says at least 30 injured, some critically. A local hospital says it's treating 71 passengers. One person died. The airport general manager says a 73-year-old British man apparently suffered a heart attack. It happened when the Boeing 777 flying from London to Singapore hit sudden turbulence on the edge of a powerful storm over Thailand. Flight Radar 24 data shows the plane bucking like a Bronco at 37,000 feet, climbing and falling. Then a controlled emergency descent to 31,000 feet. Photos from inside the cabin show the damage and chaos. Overhead panels ripped off, food and bottles scattered on the floor, bloodstains on the ceiling. Multiple victims evacuated on backboards.
It was incredibly scary experience. Seeing the people in the flight 25 years ago.
Atmospheric researchers report clear air turbulence has only gotten worse with climate change.
So we know that the amount of wind shear in the jet stream is now 15% stronger than it was when satellites first began observing it in the 1970s.
Heat makes the jet stream more volatile and difficult to predict.
Pilots do rely on other pilots to report turbulence that they encounter.
It happens every day, 5,500 times a year. 7 were injured in March of 2023 when a Lufthansa flight hit severe turbulence over Tennessee. In December 22, 3 dozen injured on a Hawaiian Air flight.
Broken backs, broken skulls, brain injuries, a severed limb. And these are very serious conditions.
This incident really underscores why you need to always wear your seatbelt on a plane, and infants should be strapped into a car seat on a plane. The NTSB is sending a team to investigate. 4 Americans were on board this flight. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you so much. Let's bring in former accident investigator and aviation specialist expert Jeff Gazzetti. Jeff, good to have you with us. All right, so these images from this flight are certainly scary. A Bangkok hospital says 20 people from this flight are in intensive care. Of course, 1 person has died. How dangerous can sudden turbulence be, and what actually causes turbulence that's this severe?
Good morning. Well, so atmospheric changes causes turbulence. Turbulence is classified in 4 levels: light, moderate, severe, and extreme. And this was extreme, which means the pilot loses control of the airplane and there's potentially structural damage. It's not that common that airliners puncture extreme turbulence. It usually occurs near a lot of convective activity, a lot of updrafts and downdrafts from powerful thunderstorms. And the best way, Joe, to prevent injuries is to be strapped into your seat.
Yeah, I always am strapped into my seat. Make sure my kids are, too. My sister-in-law is a flight attendant and has seen a lot of these incidents. Reuters reports one passenger who claimed to have been inside the plane said some people's heads slammed into the ceiling and actually punctured the overhead lights. Even if you're strapped in, this can still be a dangerous situation.
It can be dangerous, but I would guess that those people who were thrown up into the headboards were not strapped in. It's just almost impossible for turbulence to rip apart an airplane or rip apart your seatbelt. So those that were physically injured were likely not strapped into their seats. And the one fatality, the 73-year-old man, I'm not, it's not sure whether he was strapped in or not. He had a heart attack. it's a very scary situation, whether or not you're physically damaged. And perhaps that's what triggered the heart attack.
You know, Tom Costello mentioned in his report climate change may be partially responsible for the increase in air turbulence during flights. A statement from Singapore Airlines said the plane encountered sudden extreme turbulence over southern Myanmar. Weather data showed multiple rapidly developing storms. Is there anything more plane manufacturers can do to further safeguard against severe weather, or do you think they're doing everything they can right now?
I think they're doing everything they can right now. These airplanes are built incredibly tough. They have safety factors in them where the structure is not going to be harmed. The wings are going to stay on. It's really just getting people, well, two things. One, you should be strapped in anytime you are seated. And secondly, there could be new technologies to better alert pilots to turbulence. So avoiding turbulence is the number one thing to do. And then staying strapped in your seat is the number two thing.
Jeff Gazzetti, good to have you with us this morning. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We have a lot more to get to here on Morning News Now, including the massive funeral of Iran's late president, as we learn new details about the investigation into his death.
But first, new from overnight, 3 U.S. allies formally recognize a Palestinian state. We're breaking down this landmark announcement and Israel's angry response next. Welcome back. The funeral procession of Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi has reached the capital of Tehran this morning ahead of tomorrow's burial. Thousands gathered to witness the procession of the controversial leader who died along with several other Iranian officials in a helicopter crash on Sunday. NBC's chief international correspondent Keir Simmons has the story.
After day one of a 3-day funeral with huge crowds, the procession inching past mourners holding up posters of President Raisi, clamoring to touch the coffin. Iran is hearing more about the helicopter crash that killed him. This video capturing the moment rescuers arrive at the scene. Found it, one shouts. Then the grim reality takes hold. They cry, pray and sob. On Iranian state television, his chief of staff, who was in an accompanying helicopter, describing turning back to search, and hours of desperate calls with one of those who had been on board, now one of the dead. Criticism of the late president is dangerous. A hardliner who the US says had blood on his hands, Iran's prosecutor warning people not to celebrate his death. But as Iran's state TV broadcast rolling coverage of the funeral, Iranians opposed to the regime spoke out to NBC's partner Sky News, their identities concealed to protect them.
People have been handing out sweets, and in many other Iranian cities, people celebrated the news by fireworks. I'm not upset at all, even though I never wish death on anyone.
Our thanks to Keir Simmons for that report. The precise cause of the crash remains unclear, but Iran says it is investigating. All right, in a big diplomatic development in the Middle East, Ireland, Spain, and Norway are set to become the latest countries to recognize a Palestinian state in a historic move that's being celebrated by the Palestinian Authority and condemned by Israel.
In a coordinated move this morning, the leaders of all 3 countries announced they will formally recognize a Palestinian state on May 28th. 143 UN member countries recognize Palestine as a state. The U.S. is not one of them. Speaking earlier, the Irish Prime Minister said the move was long overdue and an important step to achieving peace in the Middle East.
Today, Ireland, Norway and Spain are announcing that we recognise the state of Palestine. I've spoken with a number of other leaders and counterparts, and I'm confident that further countries will join us in taking this important step in the coming weeks. We do so because we believe in freedom and justice as the fundamental principles of international law.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Tel Aviv. Raf, walk us through what we're hearing from these leaders this morning, European leaders this morning. Why have they decided to recognize a Palestinian state now?
Well, Christine, Joe, they are basically saying that the only sustainable path for long-term peace between Israelis and Palestinians is the two-state solution. So a secure state of Israel living alongside of an independent state of Palestine. And they are saying, with basically every indicator going the wrong way, with so much violence, with Israeli settlements expanding, that they believe the best way to keep even the prospect of a two-state solution alive is to declare that they are recognizing a state of Palestine, that they will not allow this pathway to be closed. Now, these are 3 European states announcing this today. They're not the first European states. Others have done so, but we are expecting others to follow in the coming weeks. And that is potentially going to add to pressure on the Biden administration. The American position is they believe there should one day be a Palestinian state, but that it should come only through negotiations with Israel. But it may get to a point where most of the U.S.'s European allies are recognizing a Palestinian state, the U.S. starting to look a little more diplomatically isolated. I'll also say, guys, there is a certain symbolism to Norway recognizing a state of Palestine. The Oslo Accords, which was supposed to be the pathway towards peace, was negotiated in Norway back in the 1990s. There is a widespread understanding that that path has failed, and it is now the Norwegian government saying, even without this breakthrough in peace talks, we are recognizing a state of Palestine. Guys.
So, Raph, what's been the reaction from both the Palestinians and the Israelis to this move? And this just larger issue, the debate, the international pressure on the region, does that have any impact at all on the war in Gaza?
So, Joe, predictably, the Israelis are furious about this, and they are saying that this is a reward to both Hamas and Iran, that basically Hamas carried out the largest slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust, and 7 months later, it got recognition of a Palestinian state from these European countries. They say it will incentivize more terror. Israel is also recalling its ambassadors from these 3 countries in protests. The Palestinians are welcoming this. That is both the Palestinian Authority, which is the Palestinian semi-government in the occupied West Bank that is recognized by the international community. But Hamas is welcoming this also. And you are also seeing a number of Arab and Middle Eastern states saying that this is a welcome development. In terms of actually impacting the war itself, guys, unfortunately, this is unlikely to do much. Guys.
All right, Ralph, thanks so much for that.
More international news now. Russia is in the first stage of nuclear drills near Ukraine's border.
NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Lavanga has the details on that and other world headlines. Claudio, good morning.
Christine, Joe, good morning. Well, that's right. On Tuesday, Russia's defense ministry said in a statement that they have begun drills using or involving tactical nuclear weapons. Now, the maneuvers are taking place in the south of Russia, including on the border with Ukraine, occupied Crimea, and 4 Ukrainian regions that Russia illegally annexed in 2022. The announcement is seen as a warning to Western officials who recently spoke about the possibility of deeper involvement in the war in Ukraine. And let's go to China, where a journalist who was jailed 4 years ago while reporting on the COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan has been released from prison. In 2020, journalist Zhang Zhan was sentenced on charges, and I quote, of picking quarrels and provoking trouble while reporting on the pandemic. But activists who fought for her release say Zhan still has limited freedom, and there are concerns that she will still be kept under control by the police, even if she's no longer in prison. Her former lawyer also said that she's still under the watch and care of the police. And let's end this tour of the world in the UK, where on Tuesday, a Kensington Palace spokesperson told the BBC that Kate Middleton is not expected to return to work until it's cleared by her medical team. Princess of Wales has been out of the public eye since she had abdominal surgery in January, and in March she announced that she is undergoing treatment for cancer. In the meantime, the princess is concentrating on her charity organization, the Royal Foundation Centre for Early Childhood, and has been briefed on a new report that urges businesses to invest in families with young children. Back to you guys.
Continue to wish her well. All right, Claudio, thank you so much.
All right, coming up, it's now or never in the fight for the future of Graceland.
See what you did there.
Yep.
We're diving into the legal battle to keep the iconic Memphis mansion off the auction block. That's next.
All right, welcome back. It's time for our weekly medical checkup. A new survey is shining light on the importance of basic first aid skills and why many Americans feel unprepared to help in an emergency.
Plus, we're talking about your exercise goals with new research that compares the effectiveness of tracking workouts in steps versus minutes.
All right, NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar joined us to discuss the latest health headlines. Dr. Azar, good morning. So nice to see you. Okay, this new Ohio State University survey found that only half of Americans feel like they could step in an emergency and know what to do. Only half.
I know. So we're talking about 3 major things that people should know how to do. One of them is hands-only compressions, right, for someone who's in cardiac arrest. The other one is stop the bleeding, and the other one is choking. So if we take a look at what the poll showed, as you said, about 51% of people said they wouldn't know how to do hands-only CPR, 49% would not know how to stop the bleed, and only 56% of people would know how to perform a Heimlich maneuver if somebody was choking. Wow. That is not good enough. We know, especially with cardiac arrest, if you get in there, that double or triples your likelihood of survival. So my doctor's orders are pretty straightforward. There's training available literally everywhere, in person, online, and you want to make sure that you're renewing your certification every 2 years. And this was a reminder to me, too. I brushed up on all of this on my way in today. It is not that hard, especially the compression-only CPR. People get nervous about, doing mouth-to-mouth. You don't even need to. Even hands-only can save a life. I want to get that message out moving loud and clear. Yes.
And we know all the songs that we can do in order
staying alive.
They're staying alive.
That's the one.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about exercise. There's a new study published in the journal Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise. Says biking may help people with knee pain. Why is it better than other workouts? How often should you do it?
Right. And so, well, interestingly, the one question that they didn't necessarily give us is how often you should bike. But what they found, they did a survey of thousands of people. And if you biked at any time in your life, it significantly reduced the risk of having knee pain or knee osteoarthritis. Why is that? Well, they speculate that it has to do with building muscles around, I always explain to my patients as a rheumatologist, you can't strengthen your knee, it's bones and cartilage, but you can strengthen the muscles around the knee. So here's my doctor's orders. I do like cycling. It's not weight bearing, but it is very gentle on the joints. You can do it outside or you can do it inside. It doesn't matter if you're love going to spin classes or if you do it recreationally. But one thing that is a myth that I think is really important is that running is bad for your knees. It really isn't necessarily. Running is also good because you just maintain that lean body mass. And we've known now for years, even marathon runners, for example, have less knee arthritis than sedentary people. So the message is pretty loud and clear. Anything that gets you moving and anything that builds lower extremity strength that supports the knees can stave off arthritis in the future.
Just get out there and move.
Yeah.
Just get out there and move. Okay, our last study is from the Journal of the American Medical Association and it looked at minutes versus steps for activity. And what did it find?
So, a lot of people wear trackers, right? And they say, I want to move 10,000 steps a day, or I want to move this many things. And other people are like, no, I'm going to go back to the tried and true 150 minutes a week of moderate exercise or 75 minutes a week of vigorous exercise. And these individuals, these researchers wanted to basically say, is there a difference in your method of tracking that actually has any correlation with preventing cardiovascular disease? And what they basically found was that no matter how you measured, as long as you were physically active, it lowered your risk of heart disease and of cancer, which those are great things, right? So my doctor's orders are this: set attainable goals and do what works for you. If you like to track your steps, by all means, track your steps. If you like to fall back on the CDC says I should do 150 minutes per week of moderate exercise, you can do that too. As long as you're active, that's it.
What's moderate exercise? Is that brisk walking?
Moderate exercise is exercise that you can do and still have a conversation with someone. Okay. Vigorous means you're working too hard and you can't hold a conversation.
Okay.
Do you have conversations when you exercise?
Just with myself.
And you can maintain that with yourself.
Christine. You're doing great. That's what I tell myself.
I love it.
Dr. Natalie Azar, nice to see you.
Thank you. A new legal battle is unfolding in Memphis this morning. Actress Riley Keough, the granddaughter of Elvis Presley, has filed a lawsuit to stop the sale of the iconic Graceland property. Keough says the company looking to sell her grandfather's famous estate created fraudulent paperwork and forged signatures to claim ownership of the land. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has more.
Graceland has long been a cherished piece of Americana, the Memphis home of music legend Elvis Presley. The late Lisa Marie Presley talking about her childhood home.
I feel like I'm connected to something here more than anywhere else.
Now, in a lawsuit, her daughter, Danielle Riley Keough, claims a false investment firm is trying to illegally sell Graceland. According to the suit, the Missouri-based Nosany Investments says Lisa Marie borrowed $3.8 million before her death, putting up her father's home as collateral, and never repaid the loan. Now the firm is attempting to sell Graceland this Thursday. But in court filings, Keough says the documents of the alleged deal are forgeries, including this one signed by a notary who denies meeting Presley or notarizing anything, according to an affidavit included in the lawsuit. This is a lawsuit, but isn't what they are alleging a crime?
The allegations are civil in this complaint, but the underlying facts seem to make out criminal activity.
Earlier this month, a Tennessee court put a hold on the sale. Kurt Nosany, who is named in the lawsuit, told NBC News he has not worked for the firm since 2015 and did not handle loans to Lisa Marie Presley.
Even if this transaction was made in secret, those leave records. So that would be the obvious first place to look.
NBC News attempted to get further comment from Nosany Investments, but did not hear back. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
Let's talk more about this with NBC News legal analyst Angela Senadella breaking down this legal battle. So an injunction hearing set for today at the Shelby County Chancery Court. What is the type of thing that we can expect in this?
So good morning, Joe and Christine. So look, ultimately the judge will decide whether or not this property should be sold. However, it's a property dispute in terms of ownership. So both sides will go in front of the judge and they will present their reasoning, their documents, their evidence as to why they believe they properly own the property in order to be able to sell it. Now, look, these disputes, even though this is very unique because it is Graceland, happen all the time. When someone is deceased and they have wealth, there's always questions over whether or not they sign documents properly. So the judge will likely have seen this before and will just decide whether or not it appears there is forgery or fraud involved here and stop the sale entirely.
What does Riley Keough have to show to prove that this loan was a forgery?
So again, because this does actually happen all the time, it might seem like it's just a who do you believe, but there are mechanisms in place. First of all, anytime a deed is transferred between one party to another, even as collateral for a loan like this, it has to be recorded in the local registrar's office. And it appears here that it was not, which would be the first piece of evidence to show that this transfer was not legal and was likely forged. But then beyond that, it appears Riley also has evidence that the notary public, and again, you know that a notary public literally has to meet the person who they are notarizing the documents for. When she claims that she never met Lisa Marie Presley, that in itself is also additional evidence. So again, there are a lot of mechanisms in place to prevent something like this because this tends to happen all the time.
This is, of course, a civil case, but as Danny pointed out, the lawsuit alleges criminal activity. Is it possible a criminal case could come out of this?
Yes, absolutely. The government always has a hugely vested interest in stopping scammers like this. But I will say also, it's unclear who exactly the scammer is. I have also seen cases where it's an associate or a friend who then forge the documents themselves. It's not always necessarily this investment company who is the fraud. So it appears there was some fraud surrounding this. It's just a question of who it is, and that is who the prosecutors would likely look into.
All right. Angela Senadella, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Coming up, Scarlett Johansson takes aim at OpenAI over one of its new voices, which she says is eerily similar to her.
How the company has responded and how this might affect the future of the technology. That's next. We're back with the latest controversy surrounding artificial intelligence, with actress Scarlett Johansson attacking OpenAI for using a voice she says is similar to hers.
It's just the latest instance of the technology being accused of using creative bodies of work without permission. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz reports.
Hollywood megastar Scarlett Johansson is taking on one of the biggest names in tech, OpenAI co-founder Sam Altman.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey there. The actress saying one of the 5 voices for OpenAI's new AI chatbot sounds eerily similar to her own.
I'm really excited about teaming up with you.
Hello. Johansson, who famously played the voice of an artificial intelligence system in the 2013 movie Her.
Hi. How you doing?
Saying in a statement that Altman had reached out twice wanting to hire her for the OpenAI project, an offer she declined. But she says when she heard the demo for the voice named Sky, she was shocked, angered, and in disbelief over the resemblance to her own. In response, Altman says the company has paused the use of Sky's voice, but denies copying Johansson's, saying in part the voice was never intended to resemble hers. But Johansson points to a recent post by Altman on X where he simply wrote her, referencing the movie he's spoken about publicly.
I think her got something deeply right on the interface.
The controversy highlighting concerns over online fakes and the growing copyright concerns posed by artificial intelligence. There seems to be a transparency issue here.
There definitely seems to be a transparency issue here where OpenAI is clearly trying to make their AI models better. But that also means that they have to use data from somewhere, and they are not always transparent about where that data comes from.
OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, is now facing several copyright infringement lawsuits, including from the New York Times, claiming unauthorized use of content to train AI language models. OpenAI has said its training is based on fair use, calling the Times suit without merit. And OpenAI says prior to ever reaching out to Scarlett Johansson, it cast actors to create the voices of its new chatbots, including the voice of Sky. The company has yet to release the identity of those actors. Back to you.
All right, Liz, thanks so much. Let's bring in futurist and Wave founder Sinead Bovell for more on this. Good morning. So nice to see you, Sinead. So this isn't the first time AI companies have been criticized for something similar to what Johansson is alleging here. How have the companies been responding to these sorts of claims?
Good morning, and thanks for having me. It really is a mixed bag, depending on the company and depending on the claim. Most AI companies are claiming that this is training these AI models, even if some of the data is copyright, it actually falls under fair use. The models don't verbatim memorize and regurgitate the exact same content that they've been trained on. Instead, they are looking for statistical patterns and words, and that's how they generate their output. So they believe that there isn't an actual copyright claim there. Now, some companies, they do filter, or they do put filtering methods. So if you want to say, generate me a character from Star Wars, depending on the AI company, you won't be able to do that. But you could prompt the AI system enough with enough details that it would output something similar anyways. So it is all just kind of a blur in the world of copyright right now. And it doesn't seem like we're making any progress on how we move forward here.
So, as part of Johansson's statement, she said she looks forward to the day when appropriate legislation is passed to help ensure individual rights are protected. I know Tennessee recently signed something into law to try and help musicians, but beyond that, there's not much out there. I mean, what could this look like when it comes to legislation, and how will that change decision making? How could that impact companies?
So in an ideal world, and there are some bills that have been floated, they haven't been passed, you should have the right to own your digital likeness. So that can't be used, or somebody can't create an AI chatbot that sounds like you, or that represents you, or that looks like you without your consent. And there is a bill, I think it's the short term for it is the No Fakes Act, and that has been floated. It hasn't yet passed, and that would at least prevent people from creating AI chatbots that sound like you, that look like you, that try to represent you. But even then, that still isn't entirely perfect, because you could train an AI system that comes close to somebody. It reminds you of them, but it isn't actually them. So there are all sorts of ethically kind of gray areas here. And that's kind of what's happening with the Scarlett Johansson case. On the one hand, OpenAI is claiming it isn't her voice. It is a different actor's voice. But it is so eerily similar, and we know that they tried to recruit her for that role, that it actually comes down, in my opinion, to the ethical decision-making and the bad judgment. Even though she said no to using her voice, they moved forward with a voice that would cause confusion anyways. To me, that's quite a big red flag, especially with one of the most important AI companies of our time.
Sinead, quickly, what are some of the other ethical issues around AI that we're likely to keep hearing about?
Well, copyright for sure, of course, disinformation and misinformation, ownership in the age of AI. And I think in terms of OpenAI and Scarlett Johansson, this is, again, the continuation of calling into question artists' rights, artists' work, the value of their work, and the ownership over their work in the AI age. So hopefully, I think with the star power of Scarlett Johansson and OpenAI being one of the most notable AI companies, hopefully things look a bit different after this, but I'm unfortunately not holding my breath.
Clearly, the laws and the regulation are way behind the technology, as is often the case. Sinead Bovell, thank you so much.
There's some good news for some student loan borrowers out there. President Biden canceling billions more in federal debt.
CNBC's Silvana Henao has more on that and other money headlines. Silvana, good morning.
Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Joe. Yeah, so the Biden administration is forgiving another nearly $8 billion in federal student loans for more than 160,000 borrowers. Now, that brings the total to $167 billion in student debt for nearly 5 million Americans. Now, much of that comes from expanding the reach of and making fixes to programs at the Department of Education. Barclays is among the Wall Street firms considering whether to require employees to be in the office 5 days a week as financial regulators impose new rules for work at home. Bloomberg reports some managers have already begun warning staff to prepare to commute in daily. The Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, which oversees Wall Street banks and brokerage firms, has announced a number of rules set to take effect in the coming weeks, including making brokerages list some home offices in their records. That may prompt some firms to determine the additional compliance just isn't worth it and summon those employees back full time. And you can now live where a former Beatle did for the right price, of course. Yoko Ono has listed the first home she and John Lennon bought in Manhattan back in 1971. The two-story building in Soho is where the couple lived for 2 years before they moved to the Dakota on the Upper West Side. Ono, who retained control of the property, is reportedly asking for $5.5 million. It has an open format ground floor space with 14-foot high ceilings, an open kitchen, and lofted bedroom, guys.
And a little bit of history there. All right, Silvana.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. This morning, that portal connecting New York and Dublin is back online after being shut down because of some bad behavior. Is it going to stay that way? Well, two of our correspondents are going to be taking you through the looking glass next.
We are back now with a look at fashion's furriest night. We're talking about the Pet Gala, not to be confused with the star-studded Met Gala earlier this month. The Pet Gala, more than a dozen four-legged models donned designer doggy couture similar to their celebrity counterparts, and they strutted down the dog walk at the American Kennel Club Museum of the Dog in New York. All proceeds from the Pet Gala will go to the AKC Museum, and the dog's outfits will be housed at the Museum of the Dog for the entire month of June.
I love that. That is like...
I do too.
That is so, who are the designers? Imagine getting that call.
Sometimes you just need a little, just a little furry fluff story to make you happy.
Oh, we do those like every hour. There is no shortage of those here. All right, thanks, Christine. All right, finally this hour, ALS is often linked to legendary New York Yankee Lou Gehrig. The superstar slugger was diagnosed with the fatal neurological disorder back in 1939. But today there is a new face of the disease, a hero who is providing both hope and inspiration. NBC's Jacob Soboroff has his story.
This is our closing argument for our lives.
When he was first diagnosed with ALS, Brian Wallach was told he had just 6 months to live. That was nearly 7 years ago.
You say in the movie, we're running faster and harder now than we ever have before.
I could have slowed down, but I know that if I slow down, we will lose the chance to turn ALS from fatal to chronic.
It's clear that ALS has taken so much from Brian over the years, but not his determination to fight for those facing the same diagnosis. His wife, Sandra Abravaya, is right by his side.
Over the course of 7 years, we've increased federal funding by over $1 billion.
Brian and Sandra have not only helped to dramatically increase research funding for neurodegenerative diseases, they've also urged the FDA to allow ALS patients access to potentially life-saving treatments that are stuck in the pipeline.
Brian and Sandra had the political acumen to understand how Capitol Hill works and to navigate that and to usher in real change. I am in awe of them.
Katie Couric was moved by the courage and determination of the two former Obama campaign staffers.
We met Katie, and she's like, tell me how I can help.
Katie joined Brian's friend and classmate from Yale, filmmaker Chris Burke, who had been intimately documenting the couple's journey and helped bring their film to life.
Did you have to convince them, or did they want to open their lives like that?
You know, I think they understood that sort of raw authenticity was required in making it relatable to people. And, you know, when you see these unvarnished moments of someone crying on the floor, or in the case of Brian crying in the hallway after the testimony, I think that was actually the beginning of it.
While the documentary, For Love and Life, No Ordinary Campaign, does show the raw brutality of ALS, it's also very much a love story.
I think that people were worried that this film would be a downer.
It's not.
It's not. It's, I think, so uplifting, so inspiring. And I think it's because of Brian, Sandra.
Yeah.
I really think that they captured this optimism, this ability to just keep going.
Brian and Sandra have two daughters they say are too young to see the film now. But they've already learned some big lessons from their mom and dad.
They probably don't know every detail of what you're going through and how it is for the two of you to run this sort of epic marathon, you know. I'm sure they expressed to you how proud they are of both of you.
Yeah. They know that we are fighting, and they know what ALS is. And they know that it is fatal. And so they celebrate everything we do. And that means everything to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
That is powerful.
No kidding.
Our thanks to Jacob Soboroff for that story.
And you can check out the documentary on Amazon on May 28th. I mean, just so selfless of them to share their story, to campaign for so much change, and to just open up really their whole world so people can see it, and that alone can motivate people.
Well, their personal drama and trauma is really a public service.
Exactly.
Quite honestly, that they're raising money and awareness.
Our thanks to them for that. All right, that is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Yeah, the news continues right now.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, direct hit. Utter devastation across the Midwest. Iowa's governor declaring a state of emergency after more than a dozen tornadoes touched down in the state on Tuesday. We're on the ground with the harrowing stories of survival as the severe weather now moves east. We're also learning new details about the man who died while aboard that Singapore Airlines flight. Severe turbulence sent the plane lurching violently up and down in the sky before the pilot had to make an emergency landing in Thailand. The terrifying stories from passengers on board as investigators look into how it happened. Also this morning, the weight loss drug boom now changing the way other big companies do business. Later in the hour, an expert's view on the protein-packed new products from one major household name that are targeting those on drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy. Plus, Memorial Day might still be a few days away, but that doesn't mean you can't shop till you drop. We're going to sift through the best steals and deals for your holiday weekend. Good to have you with us. We're going to begin with that severe weather slamming into the nation's heartland. Parts of Iowa are under a state of emergency this morning after more than a dozen tornadoes touched down Tuesday. The town of Greenfield took a direct hit from a tornado. Officials there say the storm caused multiple deaths and injuries. That community is still assessing the damage right now. The destruction is widespread, with entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. And this outbreak of severe weather is not over yet. It's moving east, with millions of people at risk for storms today, from Texas all the way up to New York. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is in Greenfield with more on the damage.
Good morning from another American community just completely destroyed by severe spring weather. I mean, you can see these cars behind me. One is just upside down, completely flipped over. And then you can see, frankly, what's left of multiple houses over here to my right. I mean, they're just decimated. And this goes on for blocks. Iowa's governor declaring a state of emergency in 15 counties. Authorities confirming multiple deaths, and new video just showing the utterly jaw-dropping damage that's been left behind.
There she is. Tornado on the ground.
This morning, devastation in the heartland after another outbreak of violent twisters and deadly storms.
That thing's growing.
At least 18 tornadoes tearing across Iowa Tuesday, with more in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Powerful wind gusts toppling trees, tossing cars, even knocking over a semi-truck. And the twisters ripping through wind farms, turbines crumpling, catching on fire and leaving craters, and in the town of Greenfield, destroying entire neighborhoods. It took a direct hit from a large tornado, with one official saying most of the town is gone.
We watched it go over. As soon as we could get out of there, I went home. I checked on my wife and my daughter, covered up a couple windows, and I come over here to my son's house, and his is way worse than mine.
Many homes destroyed, like this farmhouse, the owners yelling for help from under the debris.
Are you in shelter? All right, nobody's hurt?
This man pinned under rubble when a storm hit without warning.
I tried to run into the house, got hit with some debris, and it dropped me. So I just turtled up behind the house, and then the whole garage came down on top of me, and I got dug out. I was probably under it for like a half an hour.
The Iowa State Patrol confirming casualties. Tuesday's onslaught, just the latest bout of brutal weather in recent weeks, from damaging floods in Nebraska to a sweltering heat wave in Texas, following storm-related power outages there. A run of extreme weather that simply isn't letting up.
And back here in Greenfield, I mean, the stories that we're hearing, like what you heard in that piece, just as horrifying as the damage, which again, in this neighborhood goes on for multiple blocks. And by the way, if it seemed like this spring has been relentless, if not exhausting when it comes to severe weather, well, the numbers now confirm that. Last month, the month of April, nationwide, we saw close to 400 reported tornadoes. That's twice the average for that time of year. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Maggie, thank you so much. Our severe weather coverage continues now with meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. No rest for the weary. You heard Maggie talking about how robust this spring has been with severe weather. We've got another chance at it this afternoon. This morning, though, looking at what's currently going on, we've got a couple of thunderstorms near Cincinnati and a few happening near parts of Kansas City. We're going to watch those really start to develop, though, as the afternoon gets underway. Notice right along that front and ahead of it is where we'll see all of those start to erupt. Here's where we're watching for the greatest chance of some of those stronger storms and severe storms to develop later today. Specifically, Texas to Arkansas, parts of Louisiana and Oklahoma are at the highest risk, but this risk expands all the way up into parts of the Northeast. New York to Texas is where we'll be watching later today, with all of those threats on the table. So the large hail, the strong wind gusts over 60 miles per hour, and a couple of tornadoes. When it comes to the hail, we're talking 2-inch in size or larger, tennis ball size hail. And again, Little Rock, Texarkana, Dallas, and San Angelo are some of the spots that we're going to watch for the greatest chance to see that larger hail. By tomorrow, a few thunderstorms across parts of the Northeast. We're also going to see some of this activity as far as severe risk return to parts of the plains. You can see it does include Little Rock, Oklahoma City, and as far north as Kearney, Nebraska. We'll see once again all of those same impacts potentially here as we get through the day tomorrow. And on top of that, some heavy rain as well. This is going to leave us with that chance for some flash flooding. Places like Dallas, Texarkana, and Little Rock look to see the highest risk of that here as we gear up for anywhere from 1 to 3 inches over the next couple couple of days. Now, it's a holiday weekend almost upon us, so of course, lots of folks wondering what the forecast is going to be, and we've got some trouble spots. Unfortunately, much of that is across the east. So let's start with the Northeast. Places like New York, say, Saturday looks pretty good. A little more cloud cover. Sunday into the low 80s. That's going to be the best day of the weekend for folks that are in New York for Memorial Day. Monday, unfortunately, looks a little soggy for folks there. Washington, D.C., the best day of the weekend is going to be Sunday as well. Temperatures will be well into those low 80s. Boston sits into the upper 70s with plenty of sunshine on tap for Saturday and Sunday, but we will have to contend with those showers and thunderstorms by Monday. Moving to the Midwest, we've got some sun on Saturday for Chicago. We've got some for St. Louis. By the time we get into the next couple of days, though, Joe, temperatures really scorching hot and feeling like summer. The unofficial start to summer, I suppose, is Memorial Day, and it's going to feel like it across parts of the Southeast with triple-digit feels like temperatures Saturday.
Some high temperatures.
They
all
are
right.
indeed.
Thank you so much, Angie. Appreciate it. Now to the deadly Singapore Airlines flight that was forced to make an emergency landing in Bangkok yesterday because of severe turbulence. One passenger died and one hospital reports at least 20 people are in intensive care. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello covers aviation for us, joins us from Reagan Airport with more. Tom, good morning.
Hey, Joe, this was an extremely violent piece of turbulence this plane flew into. Literally, the plane was up and down, dramatically jumping up and down hundreds of feet at a time. This was over Myanmar and Thailand. The pilot then descended down 6,000 feet quickly to get out of it and then declared an onboard emergency and had to divert to Bangkok. Breaking this morning after that dramatic turbulence on board Singapore Airlines Flight 321, the airline's CEO is speaking out.
We're deeply saddened by this incident.
That extreme turbulence wreaked havoc inside the plane, injuring dozens of passengers and flight attendants, some critically. One hospital says it treated 71 patients, roughly a third of those on board. One passenger, widely identified by British media as 73-year-old Jeff Kitchen, died. An airport official says the passenger suffered from a heart condition. 4 Americans were also on board, a family on its way to a Rotary convention. The Boeing 777 was flying from London to Singapore when it hit sudden turbulence on the edge of a powerful storm. Flight Radar 24 data shows the plane suddenly pushed up, then down, like a violent wave at 37,000 feet. Then a controlled emergency descent to 31,000 feet and an emergency landing. Firefighters and medics rushed in, removing victims on backboards. Inside the plane, evidence of a terrifying flight. Overhead panels ripped off, food and bottles scattered on the floor, bloodstains on the ceiling. Andrew Davies was a passenger.
So a lot of people were injured, and lots of very shaky people.
So-called clear air turbulence, often appearing close to the jet stream, is very difficult to predict. And researchers say climate change has already made wind shear much stronger.
So if you imagine the airflow over this wing experiencing a sudden updraft, this wing will be pushed up violently and instantaneously, and the airplane will tilt to the left.
Invisible to radar, pilots' radio turbulence reports from the cockpit. Unbuckled flight attendants who are up and moving are most likely to be injured.
We've seen people have broken limbs because someone else has fallen on them. And that's why we tell people to protect yourself and to protect the people around you. Keep that seatbelt fastened, even when the seatbelt sign isn't on.
This point is so important. If you have a baby, if you have an infant, there is no way in extreme turbulence that wrapping your arms around that baby will keep that baby in your arms. The G-forces will pull it out of your arms. That's why they really insist you need to have the infant strapped into a car seat in the plane seat. Otherwise, the baby could go flying and suffer absolutely devastating injuries. Joe?
A reminder why that is so important. All right, Tom, thank you so much. Turning to the war in Gaza, the UN says it has been forced to suspend food aid deliveries to the southern city of Rafah because of supply and security issues. The worsening humanitarian situation comes as 3 U.S. allies, Spain, Ireland, and Norway, say they're going to formally recognize a Palestinian state. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest. Raf, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Israel is pushing back against those allegations from war crimes prosecutors that it is deliberately starving the people of Gaza. It says it is allowing food in by land, by sea, and by air. But aid groups are saying as long as the fighting continues, there is no safe, reliable way to get that food to the people who need it. And now, even aid delivered by the U.S. military is struggling to get through.
With no sign Israel's military offensive in Rafah is slowing, the UN overnight suspending food distribution in southern Gaza, saying it's short on supplies and it's just too dangerous. While in the north, the Pentagon also updating on that floating pier built by the U.S. military, saying that so far, none of the aid delivered through it has reached hungry residents. It comes after the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court accused Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of deliberately starving the people of Gaza, an allegation he denied to MSNBC's Stephanie Rule.
We've enabled airdrops. We've enabled maritime routes. We're building a port. The whole thing of a deliberate starvation policy is ridiculous.
Israel also pushing back against a dramatic move overnight by 3 of the U.S.'s European allies, who say they're recognizing an independent Palestinian state. Ireland, Norway, and Spain saying peace can only come through a two-state solution. Israel's foreign ministry calling the move a gift to Hamas and Iran, and recalling its ambassadors. And as tension increases abroad, internally, Israel's seizing camera equipment from the Associated Press, a U.S. news agency, only to back down after pressure from the White House. The Israeli government said AP footage of Gaza was being used by Al Jazeera, which is now banned in Israel. 3 years ago, in the last Gaza war, Israel bombed an office building used by both the AP and Al Jazeera, saying Hamas was operating out of it.
Now, the White House believes the best route to a sustainable peace is if Israel agrees to allow a Palestinian state, and in return, it gets a peace deal with Saudi Arabia. But Secretary of State Antony Blinken, speaking in front of a Senate committee yesterday, says it's not clear if Israel is willing to accept that deal. Joe.
All right, Raf, thank you so much. Court will resume next week after the holiday weekend in the hush money trial of former President Trump here in New York. Closing arguments are set to take place next Tuesday after the defense rested its case yesterday. In all, the Trump legal team brought 2 witnesses to the stand, opting not to have the former president testify in his own defense. This means jury deliberations in the historic case will likely get underway 1 week from today. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Kristen Gibbons-Fedden with more on the case. Kristen, good morning. So Mr. Trump hinted several times that he was going to take the stand. He ended up not doing so, which maybe wasn't a surprise to most legal analysts. The defense did call 2 witnesses. That includes Robert Costello. He's a longtime attorney who tried to discredit the prosecution star witness Michael Cohen. What were some of the key takeaways from the defense's argument to the jury here, and specifically this witness?
So I think overall the defense's case was really short. It was not sweet, though, and it was far from effective. You know, as you mentioned, they called the paralegal who really outlined and explained the spreadsheet and the call logs. And then, as you mentioned, Costello. And Costello's main point was to discredit Michael Cohen. But again, his combative demeanor, his apparent disregard for court protocol really frustrated the court. And really what it did was it overshadowed any substantive points that he really could have made. Quite frankly, Joe, I really think he inadvertently bolstered Cohen's credibility. You know, the defense has no obligation to present a case. And considering that they really did score some points on Cohen's cross-examination, it's really unclear why Costello was called at all. But I think what is clear is that given that Costello was the final witness, I think a negative impression could linger on the minds of the jurors, which is a scenario that the defense surely did not intend at the close of the evidence.
So yesterday afternoon, Trump's legal team and prosecutors from the Manhattan DA's office spent time hashing out jury instructions. This is sort of housekeeping, may not be the sexiest headline, but it's important. There was a lot of back and forth there. Talk about how this procedure typically works before we actually get to the deliberations.
Yeah, so jury instructions are really the key. Basically, it is the roadmap, is the GPS by which the jury will follow in order to reach the verdict. And so the prosecutors want the verdict to be towards guilty, defense not guilty. So it's really important what directions are provided to these jurors. And so basically what the jury instructions do is it provides that legal roadmap that will allow the judge to instruct on the law. And the jury, who has heard week after week of all of these facts, will then apply those facts that they heard from the witness stand to these legal principles. So I think in this particular case, the prosecutors did a really great job. They successfully argued that the jury should be instructed that Trump really doesn't need to have personally created the false records to be guilty, and that the jury can consider multiple underlying crimes, including the tax crimes and including the campaign finance violations. So what it really did was it outlined that the prosecutors can kind of point to many things to show that they, in fact, met their burden. You know, the defense did try to kind of add an additional layer of intent that the prosecutor need to prove, and that would, again, be based on what the judge tells the jury is necessary to reach a guilty verdict. But the judge actually sided with the prosecutors in that regard. And so the prosecutor, the requisite proof was that the Trump's intent to defraud would include an intent to commit a crime, and that was rejected by the court. So I think that was really important for the prosecution. The judge also sided with the prosecution against the defense's request to state that the hush money payments weren't inherently illegal. So I think that was really good for the prosecutors and will really pave the way for closing arguments for that.
Which happened on Tuesday. All right, Kristen, as always, thank you so much. Abortion access in Louisiana could soon become even more restricted. Lawmakers there passed a bill that would add 2 commonly used abortion medications to the list of controlled dangerous substances. Doctors are sounding the alarm on the impact this could have on women's health. NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson has the details.
Hey there, this is a controversial plan that hundreds of Louisiana doctors say they oppose. If the governor does ultimately sign this bill into law, and he's expected to, Louisiana would be the first state in the country to criminalize these abortion drugs in this way. But critics fear it may not be the last. A new front line this morning in the battle over abortion access.
And the bill is finally passed.
Louisiana lawmakers moving forward with a plan to put 2 abortion drugs in the same category as so-called controlled dangerous substances like depressants and stimulants, criminalizing the possession of mifepristone and misoprostol used to induce abortions for anyone without a prescription.
When overutilized, this drug can be incredibly harmful.
The bill's author says his sister was given an abortion pill while pregnant without her consent.
My goal is certainly not to prevent women from getting the access to these pills when they need them. It is to simply say that when you're a bad actor in possession of these pills, that you should be held accountable.
But critics question how the state could enforce the proposal and warn it may have a chilling effect.
Let me tell you something. 50th in maternal outcomes is not pro-life.
280 Louisiana doctors in a letter say reclassifying the drugs is not scientifically based and creates confusion and misinformation, considering the drugs are also used after miscarriages and to induce labor.
Only a very small percentage of the time are they utilized for abortion care.
Louisiana already has one of the most restrictive laws in the country, banning both medication and surgical abortions, with no exceptions for rape or incest, only for the life of the mother. Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, more than a dozen states have put in place stricter abortion laws, raising the political stakes on reproductive rights heading into November. Former President Trump, in a new interview, first opening the door to restrictions on birth control.
Do you support any restrictions on a person's right to contraception?
I'm going to have a policy on that very shortly, and I think it's something that you'll find interesting.
But hours later, backing off, making clear on his social media platform he does not support a ban on birth control and will never advocate for one. Still, the Biden campaign had pretty quickly seized on those comments from Mr. Trump on birth control, given that access to it is widely popular among Americans. And in a sign of how politically mobilizing Democrats think reproductive rights could be this election season, NBC News has now learned that Senate Democrats plan to press the case and try to put Republicans on the spot by bringing a bill to the floor next month to protect access to contraception, according to a source familiar with that plan. Back to you.
More to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including more on a possible summer spike in COVID cases and new variants you need to know about. But first, new details this morning in the tragic death of actor Matthew Perry. What investigators are now looking into as Perry's access to the drug ketamine comes into focus. Stay with us. Back now with international news. Nigeria's army says hundreds of hostages were rescued after months and for some even years in captivity by Boko Haram extremists. NBC's Claudio Lavanga has that and other world news. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. The army in Nigeria say that they have freed and rescued hundreds of hostages, as you mentioned, that have been held captive by Boko Haram for months and in some cases for years. Now, 209 children, 135 women and 6 men were being held in the Sambisa forest, an area in the northeast of Nigeria where Boko Haram operates. The hostages appeared exhausted in worn-out clothes, and some of the girls had babies believed to have been born from forced marriages. The army says several extremists were killed in the rescue operation and that their makeshift houses were destroyed. Let's now talk about the protection of the oceans, as 9 small island states have won a historic climate change case at the UN's International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea. The islands, including Antigua and Barbuda, said they are fighting for the survival due to the emission of big polluters. So they asked the court to clarify what was considered marine pollution and ocean acidification caused by fossil fuels and other greenhouse emissions. The tribunal ruled that states had an obligation to act, noting the high risks of serious and irreversible harm to the marine environment. And let's end this tour of the world in New Zealand, where a single feather set a world record after being sold at an auction for more than $28,000. The feather comes from the now extinct New Zealand huia bird and went under the hammer at the Webb's auction house. The huia bird was sacred to the Aboriginal Maori people, who often wore their feathers as headpieces by chiefs and their families. The feather was initially expected to fetch up to $3,000, but in the end, it was sold for 10 times that estimate. Back to you.
All right, be very careful with the feather. All right, Claudio, thank you so much. Now to new developments in the investigation into the death of actor Matthew Perry. It has been nearly 7 months since the Friends star was found unresponsive in a hot tub at his L.A. home. Now authorities there are turning their focus on figuring out who gave Perry the drugs that caused his death. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas joins us with the latest on the investigation. Chloe, good morning.
Good morning. Matthew Perry's autopsy report revealed in December that he died from the acute effects of ketamine, a powerful anesthetic drug. And NBC News has learned now that law enforcement is trying to figure out how such a large amount of that drug got into his possession in the first place. This morning, a new twist in the investigation into the death of Friends star Matthew Perry. The LAPD telling NBC News it's working with the Drug Enforcement Administration and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service to investigate the circumstances of Perry's death. Perry was found unresponsive in a hot tub at his Pacific Palisades home in October. The LA County Medical Examiner's Office says Perry died from the acute effects of ketamine, a powerful anesthetic approved by the FDA to treat depression under doctor supervision. But the drug can also be used recreationally. The autopsy report states Perry was on ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety. He wrote about it in his 2022 memoir.
Ketamine felt like a giant exhale. They'd bring me into a room, sit me down, put headphones on me so I could listen to music, blindfold me, and put an IV in.
But the autopsy report says the ketamine in his system could not have been from his last therapy session, which was a week and a half before he died. And the level of ketamine found in his blood was equivalent to the amount used for general anesthesia. Now, 2 sources close to Perry who say they've been interviewed by law enforcement as part of the investigation tell NBC News authorities are trying to determine how Perry came into possession of so much ketamine and want to track down any drug dealers and ketamine clinics that he used.
Chandler is my name, and hi.
Despite the joy he brought playing Chandler Bing on the hit series Friends, Perry's struggles with addiction were no secret. The actor revealing at one point he was taking nearly 6 prescription pills a day.
It has nothing to do with weakness. It's a disease that we have.
His stepfather, Dateline's Keith Morrison, opening up about Perry's death with Hoda in March.
Did it surprise you?
It was the news you never want to get, but you think someday you might.
Now law enforcement looking for anyone who may have played a role in Perry's recent drug abuse that ended so tragically.
So, Chloe, Matthew Perry wrote in his memoir that more than anything, he wanted to be remembered for helping people, and his family is really trying to make that wish come true, right?
So there's the Matthew Perry Foundation that his family has started in his honor, and they want to continue that legacy. Matthew had said, right, that he didn't want to be remembered as Chandler Bing on Friends. He didn't want to be remembered for all the laughs that he brought, which would be the obvious thing that you would think would be a part of his legacy. He wanted to be remembered for helping people. He talked about addiction in his memoir, on stage, and he really wanted to give people hope. And sadly, there are a lot of questions now as to how such large amounts of ketamine got into his system in the first place, and there's this ongoing investigation that hopefully will bring his family and friends some more closure.
All right, Chloe, thank you so much. Coming up, disease experts are eyeing a rise in COVID cases this summer with a series of new variants causing concern. So what do you need to know as the weather warms up? The doctor is in next.
All right, welcome back. Disease experts are predicting an increase in COVID cases this summer.
However, it's not expected to be as serious as previous years. It's because the dominant variant, KP.2, that's catchy, now accounts for 28% of current cases. Well, it seems to be harder to spread and causing less serious symptoms than previous variants.
All right, for some perspective on this, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel. Good morning, Dr. Patel. So do we know how much of an increase is expected, and why do experts think this variant may be harder to transmit? I hope that's true than previous ones.
Yeah, Christine and Joe, this is actually a very interesting variant, KP2, as you mentioned, and it's because it has these specific mutations that make it slightly immune evasive. That means that people who have been infected previously or have been vaccinated previously can still get it. And I think that's why you're seeing a rise in cases. In Michigan, for example, we've seen a double-digit increase in cases. Globally, we've seen Singapore see such a high rise of cases. They've asked hospitals to delay some elective procedures. So it's needless to say, the globe is kind of bracing for this increase in cases we're seeing now. But as you mentioned, not an uptick in hospitalizations, not as severe, which is good news.
So as we said, the symptoms are also becoming more mild. What are some of the new typical symptoms people should be on the lookout for this summer? We know they often tend to look like a lot of other stuff we might get. And there's a risk people could have COVID without knowing it.
Yeah, I think, Joe, that is the biggest risk, because I've even had patients where I have thought going into the environment, this must be a common cold. I am completely prepared to tell them this is a common cold. Then we run the panel, and lo and behold, we're seeing positive COVID tests. So I think the moral of the story here is have those rapid antigen tests handy so that you can do some of this testing at home. But if you're in doubt, just get it checked out, because we can run the rapid tests in a clinic setting and literally let you know in minutes. And for some patients, that means you could have access to treatment like Paxlovid or some other treatments that might be appropriate. And you can also make sure that you restrict your movement so that you don't get other people sick, especially if you're immunocompromised, older, or have chronic conditions.
Yeah, you don't want to be lackadaisical about it. If it doesn't feel bad to you, it can still be very bad for other people. Even with the milder symptoms, what should we do? Should we try to be getting an updated vaccine before the summer?
Yeah, Christine, this is the trillion-dollar question. The FDA was set to meet in May. They delayed that meeting until June 5th, and we're going to be watching that meeting closely. But that's really to pick the variants for the booster for the fall. So I'm telling people, if you haven't had your vaccine in the last months, and by the way, only 1 in 5 adults have had their vaccine, and even fewer children, then getting an updated vaccine, even though that immunity doesn't kick in right away, it can still protect you against hospitalization. So I do think it's important. I don't think we're going to see this huge summer surge, but we're seeing an uptick in cases. So if people are not vaccinated, it is not too late. You can get a booster. It's just one shot, no matter who you are. We've made it simple, and they're widely available in pharmacies and doctors' offices now.
All right, Dr. Patel, thank you so much. Good information.
Thanks.
We're sticking with health with a look at how those blockbuster weight loss drugs are changing the food industry. Food giant Nestle is now set to launch a new frozen food brand for people taking drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy.
NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa joins us now with more. Good morning, Emily.
Hey, guys. So we're talking about the world's largest food company, Nestle, which owns several thousand brands. But its latest line of frozen meals is packed with protein and fiber to specifically cater to people taking weight loss medications. It's an eye-opening change that reflects the far-reaching impact of popular drugs like Wegovy and Ozempic.
The world's largest food company, famous for its coffee,
the perfect roast, Nescafe,
and cookies,
Nestle Toll House Morsels,
is now chasing down a very specific customer.
Wegovy update, week 7, 19 pounds down.
Nestle just announced a new frozen food brand that it says is intended to be a companion for GLP-1 weight loss medication users and consumers focused on weight management. Vital Pursuit will hit the frozen aisle later this year with everything from whole grain bowls to sandwich melts and pizza. The company says the meals under $5 will be portion aligned and include essential nutrients for those suddenly eating less and shedding pounds.
Want to make sure you're getting enough protein. That is a big thing, so that you can make sure you have enough muscle mass so that you're not losing muscle.
Nestle joining the race to cash in on the quickly emerging consumer market. Appetite-suppressing medications known as GLP-1s have soared in popularity.
I still want the bagel.
Totally.
I just want less of the bagel.
With celebrities like Oprah, Charles Barkley, and Kelly Clarkson sharing their experiences.
Something that aids in helping break down the sugar. Obviously, my body doesn't do it right.
About 6% of American adults are currently taking a GLP-1 drug. And some research suggests that number could soar to 9% of the total U.S. population by 2035. That's roughly 31.5 million people. That mounting demand driving a shortage of many of the drugs right now, though not Ozempic, according to the FDA.
Why would companies want to cater to this emerging marketplace?
So I think it's a smart recognition that this might be just the starting point of a long-term trend.
Retail giant Walmart has said people taking the drugs are buying less food at its stores, sending some businesses scrambling to stay competitive in this new age of health and wellness.
To finally be able to manage how much food I'm consuming is just chef's kiss.
Costco teamed up with the healthcare marketplace to offer prescriptions for weight loss drugs. GNC added an entire section dedicated to managing common side effects, while Daily Harvest now offers specially designed meal kits.
I have worked out 3 to 5 times a week since being on this medication.
Even America's gyms are working up a sweat, curating training programs and partnering with clinics that can prescribe the drugs.
It's really reaching this new era of weight loss where consumers have new tools in their toolkits.
All right, Emily, so Nestle also owns Lean Cuisine. Yeah. What's different about this?
Yeah, one might think, okay, this seems like a competitive product, but I would say while they both focus on portion control, there's this shift, and I think across the industry, away from the counting of calories and more of what kind of nutrients should people be valuing, especially as they're shedding pounds. So you're seeing like the protein-packed branded products along with calcium and an emphasis on iron and things like that as people are shedding pounds. But just to give you an idea of why so many companies are paying attention, I just read this really interesting stat from Novo Nordisk, the maker of Wegovy, and it says that they are seeing 25,000 new patients just in the U.S. alone starting Wegovy every week. That is more than 4 times what they saw just a few months ago in December. So It's soaring demand.
It is moving quickly and is only going to accelerate from here. Yep. All right, Emily, thank you so much.
Thanks,
For more on this, we are joined by nutritionist Lauren Slayton. She's the founder of Food Trainers. Lauren, good to have you with us. So Nestle says that its new line of meals are going to include 1 or more essential nutrients like protein, calcium, or iron. Is this trying to meet a need because some people on weight loss drugs aren't getting the nutrition they need?
I mean, I think it's a vicious cycle. On one hand, processed foods are what created the need for these medications, and now we have processed foods to accompany these medications. It seems like a mixed message to me.
Really good point. That's a really good point. According to research from the Kaiser Family Foundation, roughly 1 in 8 adults in the U.S. have already used this type of weight loss drug at some point. This is a huge growth market for food companies.
It absolutely is. But the key is, even if you're eating, especially if you're eating lower quantities of food, you want to make sure that you're not eating, smaller quantities of junky food. And I have new clients coming in because they're losing weight on these medications. They're just not eating well.
So Nestle's new line isn't set to come out until later this year, so we can't ask you what you think about these products yet. But what are some of the foods, real things that actually exist now that people who are taking these weight loss medications should be eating to include more essential nutrients in their meals, perhaps things that are not processed?
Yeah, I think exactly. I think the nutrients that Nestle has highlighted, we can all get at our grocery store in a whole food form. So the key is protein, at least 3 times a day. A big concern with rapid weight loss. The second is strength training. If a new client isn't willing to strength train a couple of times a week and is on these meds, I will not see them in my office, not to sound harsh. And the third is hydration. These slow gastric emptying, you really need to hydrate adequately so you don't get backed up.
What you're talking about, pre-weight loss drugs, during weight loss drugs, after weight loss drugs, eat real food, not food that comes in a bag, right?
Exactly. I mean, I don't think we should rely on a company with Hot Pockets and Haagen-Dazs in its portfolio to help us along our health journey.
Or at least don't have the Haagen-Dazs in the Hot Pockets if you're trying to lose that weight and get healthy. All right. Lauren Slayton, thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Although a good Hot Pocket every now and then.
Every now and then. Especially if you're on the road. It's that or nothing.
All right, coming up. If you can believe it, it's already that time of year again. The unofficial start of summer is just days away, and that means all those holiday weekend sales and steals and deals. They're ripe for the picking right now, but where can you find the best bang for your buck this Memorial Day? We've got you covered.
But first, we're talking travel this weekend. AAA expecting a near historic amount of people hitting the highways and the skyways over the next few days. So what can you expect when you kick off your getaway? We've got a preview next.
So Memorial Day weekend is almost here, and we're already seeing record levels of travel.
Yeah, already. The TSA says this past Friday and Sunday were, get this, among the 5 busiest days the agency has ever recorded. And experts predict that is just the beginning of a busy summer travel season.
Yeah, a lot of pent-up demand still, right? Going travel expert Katie Nastro joins us now for more. Katie, good morning. Memorial Day usually sets the tone for the entire summer, right? What's behind the record-breaking numbers this year?
Look, even with concerns around inflation, people are still prioritizing experiences over consumer goods. We see this anywhere from Gen Z up to baby boomers. And, just as as you had just noticed, the top 5 highest days in travel ever recorded by TSA, we broke that last week. And so, we're really seeing what travel would have been like if the pandemic had never happened.
So, cancellations and delays, those are always going to be concerns for people, especially around the holidays. Are airlines doing anything to try and handle this summer rush?
Yeah. Looking forward to this busy summer, we're cautiously optimistic going into it. We know that airlines are operating with the largest workforce since 2001, and we have more flights on the schedule, according to Cirium Analytics, slightly more than we did a year ago. And so that means if something should happen, airlines can get you rebooked with more options, as well as more human power available than we saw in recent years coming out of the pandemic when they were very much strained.
I know that some of those specialty routes for airlines, they moved the summer routes starting all the way back in March because they anticipated there'd be just so much demand for international travel for so many people. But not everybody is flying. When it comes to drivers and gas prices, a little bit higher this year, but not too bad. People can still hit the roads relatively inexpensively.
Yeah, look, Memorial Day historically sees a good amount of road trips versus other holidays. And just as you mentioned, anyone hitting the road this year shouldn't be worried that they're going to see a big spike at the pump. Actually, we've seen gas prices sort of deflate month over month and only slightly higher than last year. So this is good news for anyone hitting the road this year.
All right, Katie Nestor, nice to see you. Thank you so much. Are you going to be hitting the road?
No, I'm working.
Oh, yeah, there you go. All
I will
right.
be spending my holiday weekend with all of our viewers.
Okay, good.
How about you?
I'll not be watching. Maybe I'll be watching. I'll watch you. No, I'm going to be in Chicago, flying to Chicago.
Very nice.
All right, this holiday weekend isn't just for traveling. It's also a great time to find summer sales.
That's right, and already major retailers are offering some big savings. So we're going to ask Christine to put on her senior business correspondent hat here to talk about some of these things. So let's start with major appliances, things like refrigerators, washing machines. What are we seeing
So
with
this is a really good time if you're feathering your nest. Home goods. There's a lot of really good sales out there, up to half off major appliances. You look at Costco, they've got a washing machine at $499 and a dishwasher at $529. Mattresses, sheets, and pillows, a lot of deals there. There's a company that makes a memory foam mattress called Nectar. It's offering its $649. It's 40% off the regular price. And all those little things, vacuums, air fryers, garden supplies, this is a good time to get all of those. Of course, if you need them, I would say. If you need them, this is a good time. And the sales are right now, frankly. So this is a good time to get those if you are in need of a new washing machine.
Which some people are definitely. That's one of those things that you need it when you need it. And then you don't really get to plan ahead, but maybe you can. All right, so we know lots of people are going to have barbecues, parties, things like that. So what's going on at the grocery store?
So after a couple of years of just grocery pain with those bills, there's some really interesting things here. Walmart until July 12th has this summer cookout basket. It's $50 and it feeds 8 people, so that comes out to about $6 a piece. It's, you know, hot dogs, watermelon, dessert, the whole bit. Aldi is lowering prices on what it's calling its summer essentials, so a bunch of different chicken and grillable steaks. And Target, as we've been reporting, is cutting thousands of items prices this summer. So for the first time in a long time, you're seeing some relief on the grocery front. But check out some of those prices at Aldi. They have been striving to get down to 2019 price levels for some time now, so there are some values there.
And definitely people are looking for those values, especially at the grocery store. All right, let's talk about electronics, maybe something we usually talk about during the holidays, but if you want a TV or something like that.
So there'll be some really good Black Friday deals, but right now there are some good Memorial Day sales. AirPods, $89 on Amazon and Walmart. So these are the older generation. So older generation technology is really going to be deeply discounted. I've been noticing that I'm getting a lot of texts from retailers saying, hey, do you want a doorbell, camera, tablets, smart devices? You might see bigger deals on Prime Day and Black Friday, but this is a good time to try to get those things. Brittany, who's the crazy coupon lady, she told us that you're going to see bigger discounts. Yep, it is. You're going to see bigger discounts later this year. Like a 9th generation iPad, for example, is on sale for $249 right now on Amazon. She says it'll be even cheaper on Black Friday. So you can wait. You don't have to feel that pressure to go out and get the big deal right now. There will be some more deals on electronics later.
Which begs the question, are there things we should be skipping right now?
So toys will be cheaper later on. And also like lawn furniture, patio furniture, grills, summer apparel, all that stuff will be deeply discounted later this summer. I mean, the best deals on that stuff always comes like in August and then around Labor Day. And then we've talked about spaving, the made-up word for spending money to save money. It's when they say, if you spend $400, you get free shipping, or you spend $100, you can get buy one, get one, something you don't need. Don't spend money you don't have. Credit card debt is a real problem right now. Don't, fall into that trap of like taking the loss leader that they're offering for really cheap and then buying a bunch of stuff you don't need. Right. So be intentional. I always say this, be really intentional, make a list. If you need a washing machine, now is a great time to get a washing machine. But if you don't need a doorbell camera, don't buy a doorbell camera.
Are you saying companies might have some ulterior motives when it comes to that sort of thing? I would just
say they don't lower these prices out of the kindness of their heart. They do it because they think you're going to buy other stuff too.
All right. Great advice, useful to keep in mind as we head into Memorial Day, if shopping is on your list for the holiday.
All right. Coming up for Love and Life.
After the break, the bold new documentary that's putting ALS back in the national spotlight. One family's story of hope and of inspiration. Next.
We are back now with a look at fashion's furriest night. We're talking about the Pet Gala, not to be confused with the star-studded Met Gala earlier this month. The Pet Gala, more than a dozen four-legged models donned designer doggy couture similar to their celebrity counterparts, and they strutted down the dog walk at the American Kennel Club Museum of the Dog in New York. All proceeds from the Pet Gala will go to the AKC Museum, and the dog's outfits will be housed at the Museum of the Dog for the entire month of June.
I love that. That is like...
I do too.
That is so... Who are the designers? Imagine getting that call.
Sometimes you just need a little, just a little furry fluff story to make you happy.
Oh, we do those like every hour. There's no shortage of those here. All right, thanks, Christine. All right, finally this hour, ALS is often linked to legendary New York Yankee Lou Gehrig. The superstar slugger was diagnosed with the fatal neurological disorder back in 1939. But today there is a new face of the disease, a hero who is providing both hope and inspiration. NBC's Jacob Soboroff has his story.
This is our closing argument for our lives.
When he was first diagnosed with ALS, Brian Wallach was told he had just 6 months to live. That was nearly 7 years ago.
You say in the movie, we're running faster and harder now than we ever have before.
I could have slowed down, but I know that if I slow down, we will lose the chance to turn ALS from fatal to chronic.
It's clear that ALS has taken so much from Brian over the years, but not his determination to fight for those facing the same diagnosis. His wife, Sandra Abravaya, is right by his side.
Over the course of 7 years, we've increased federal funding by over $1 billion.
Brian and Sandra have not only helped to dramatically increase research funding for neurodegenerative diseases, they've also urged the FDA to allow ALS patients access to potentially life-saving treatments that are stuck in the pipeline.
Brian and Sandra had the political acumen to understand how Capitol Hill works and to navigate that and to usher in real change. I am in awe of them.
Katie Couric was moved by the courage and determination of the two former Obama campaign staffers.
We met Katie, and she's like, tell me how I can help.
Katie joined Brian's friend and classmate from Yale, filmmaker Chris Burke, who had been intimately documenting the couple's journey and helped bring their film to life.
Did you have to convince them, or did they want to open their lives like that?
You know, I think they understood that that sort of raw authenticity was required in making it relatable to people. And, you know, when you see these unvarnished moments of someone crying on the floor, or in the case of Brian crying in the hallway after the testimony, I think that was actually the beginning of it.
While the documentary, For Love and Life, No Ordinary Campaign, does show the raw brutality of ALS, it's also very much a love story.
I think that people were worried that this film would be a downer.
It's not.
It's not. It's, I think, so uplifting, so inspiring. And I think it's because of Brian, Sandra.
Yeah.
I really think that they captured this optimism, this ability to just keep going.
Brian and Sandra have two daughters they say are too young to see the film now, but they've already learned some big lessons from their mom and dad.
They probably don't know every detail of what you're going through and how it is for the two of you to run this sort of epic marathon, you know? I'm sure they expressed to you how proud they are of both of you.
Yeah. They know that we are fighting, and they know what ALS is, and they know that it is fatal, and so they celebrate everything we do, and that means everything to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
That is powerful.
No kidding.
Our thanks to Jacob Soboroff for that story.
And you can check out the documentary on Amazon on May 28th. I mean, just so selfless of them to share their story, to campaign for so much change, and to just open up really their whole world so people can see it, and that alone can motivate people.
Well, their personal drama and trauma is really a public service.
Exactly.
Quite honestly, that they're raising money and awareness.
Our thanks to them for that. All right, that is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Yeah, the news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.